What's up, guys? It's your boy cd.achille. Gonna react to some. Did the Lakers win a fake NBA championship? If you wondering why I'm talking like this, Vanguard got me really pissed. But let's see how the Lakers win a fake championship during the COVID. Am I allowed to say the BS during 2020?
Out here being in the bubble, I gotta see this dude right after the game. He just dropped 57. Here's the GOAT.
Oh,
the bubble was such a weird moment in time, man. Donovan dropped 57 points, lost to the Nuggets, and had to see Jamal Murray right after.
Why ain't no wait, boy?
Fans on screens, Wheezy out here high. The Clippers blew a 3-1 lead.
It was a bad shot.
LeBron playing the Drew League and Malachi Flynn dropping 73 points in Pro-Am in an open gym. A guy who averages 4 points in the NBA, that all reminded me of the NBA bubble environment. LeBron said that making it to the finals in the NBA bubble is the most challenging thing he's ever done. But that's LeBron talking up his own accomplishment. There are two schools of thought. Everyone's team that lost say it was a fluke. A Mickey Mouse ring because there was no pressure, players weren't in the best shape. But then you have the Lakers and Heat fans saying this is the purest basketball. Kind of like running your team in an open gym. No distractions, but with very real stakes. You ever see NBA players practice or even go in the open gym? That
was actually the first time I ever seen Ben Simmons shoot a three.
Don't miss.
This month, don't miss.
Rudy Gobert is drilling threes. Except THT. That man went to the Drew League and dropped 14 points on 38% from the field. Generational role play. Players in practice or even in private runs make some of the craziest shots casually. Remember bubble TJ Warren averaging 31 points? He also got shut down in the bubble playoffs.
Come on, man.
In fact, the 2019-2020 playoffs had the highest points per game league average ever at that point in time, until 2021 when it went up by 0.7. And then fell again. But maybe some teams were really going off.
What kind of shot was that?
At that point in time,
that was a
until
2K shot.
2021 when it went up by 0.7. And then fell again. But maybe some teams were really going off. Jason Tatum said, I ain't gonna say no names, but there were some people on the other teams. I'm like, hold on, they don't normally play like that. I'm tired of all this Mickey Mouse ring talk. I'm tired of all this the bubble was the toughest championship ever talk. Let's dive deep and look at what was actually going on. What is up, dudes, cadets, ballers, players? It's your boy MJ. Forget the ring, does this mean that all the performances in the bubble also don't mean anything? Does Dame hitting these deep logo shots or Luka hitting this game winner not matter? To figure this out, I wanted to see if shooting in the bubble was on another level. And so the simplest way of doing that would be looking at 3-point percentages in the playoffs. And they kind of fall in the upper tier, but nothing groundbreaking. 36% from 3 would be the third highest in the past 20 playoffs, but still around all the other years. However, 3 points attempted per game is still the highest ever. So players were chucking it in the bubble, making them at a very high rate, which led to the high scoring we saw, even without Steph in the playoffs. But we still had Taco Bell.
I mean, we had Damian Lillard in the bubble. That man was shooting from everywhere. Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, it was like shooting. That was me personally. I feel like they would shoot like all the threes, to be honest. Especially Damian Lillard.
So, despite players having the choice to not participate in the NBA bubble, most teams actually were pretty complete roster-wise. The bubble turned out to be the safest on-court environment for NBA players,
which is weird because it's in Florida, where we have during that time it was like we had like the most cases, I think. But it wasn't. But they had it. They had the bubble in Orlando, so I don't know what was rates over there. But I know in Broward and Dade, whew,
Players in the bubble missed 28% fewer games due to injury compared to the average of 5 prior seasons. Injured players missed 2.9 games in the bubble, 24% less compared to the 5-season average. So less surprises, more teams getting in a groove with their roster in the playoffs. Not like 2021 with Kawhi, Kyrie, Harden, AD, Trae Young, Jaylen Brown, Giannis all getting hurt during or right before the playoffs.
Oh, God!
Giannis different, man. He hyperextended his knee and came back within a week?
I am invincible!
One wrong step and his career would have been over. There were 14 players who opted to miss the bubble, but 6 of those players were on the Nets when KD was hurt, which is why Timothy Loa-Cabarro was the headline act in the playoffs. What a wild timeline. The bubble playoffs were relatively injury-free. Everyone knew what teams they had going into the bubble. The NBA announced the bubble in mid-June, exhibition games started 1 month later, so game planning wise, there was enough time. Now, one of the biggest challenges for players was their fitness levels coming into the bubble. Because NBA team facilities were shut down during the pandemic, not all players had access to gyms, courts, trainers, and so players could end up getting out of shape. This was also not...
That's actually a creative way to indoor gym,
because NBA
actually.
team facilities were shut down during the pandemic, not all players had access to gyms, courts, trainers, and so players could end up getting out of shape. This was also an opportunity for players to get rest in the middle of the season before getting to the playoffs.
No freaking way.
So it seemed good for players like Harden, who has ran out of gas in the playoffs in the past.
I am perplexed! What happened? Oh my God, wow!
There were also a select few athletes that got disrupted, especially since certain athletes would try to peak during the playoffs in May and June. For example, Draymond Green once got out of shape during the regular season, but then started a diet and lost 25 pounds in 2 months to be in shape for the 2019 playoffs. Players didn't know exactly when the bubble would happen, if it would even happen to begin with, so maybe there wasn't enough prep time. Still, no injuries, but
I still have hope for Russ. I'll be honest, I was mad at Russ, the dumb stuff he was doing, like how you miss wide open layups, but I still have hope for Russ. Hopefully a team, he's still playing, still in the NBA, cause like if he's not in the NBA for the next 2 years, just because he had one terrible season.
For players in their peak, for example, LeBron spends $1 million per year on his body so he can peak during the playoffs. The months off disrupted that entire process. This also applies to players like Chris Paul, even maybe Kawhi Leonard, so the answer to that question is a bit more difficult. In the bubble, there was nothing to do but work out. You weren't allowed visitors, so no family, no nightclubs. I mean, some players got creative with it.
Hey, yup.
This is the type of environment Kobe would thrive in. He always told his teammates to not party and go out if you can't work and prioritize basketball. This goes along with what Dame said, saying the bubble was way easier because there was no distractions, no travel, it was just game and recovery. Quote, everything was laid out. Now, if you want to debate whether the Lakers got lucky because Bam Adebayo got hurt, that's a different story. So I found what players were saying about the bubble. Dame said it was way easier. Even Anthony Davis said some guys like the bubble because you don't have the pressure from opposing fans or even home fans. And that's true. There was no home team advantage, which kinda sucked for the Lakers. This article actually breaks down home team.
No team advantage. Me personally, it could go both ways. Like if you're losing, you gotta hear your fans booing or whatever, throwing stuff at you. Actually, I don't know.
Advantage and how that's a psychological phenomenon due to a self-fulfilling prophecy. Players think they play better at home, and therefore they convince themselves and actually play better. So the bubble was an equal playing field. But in reality, there were also a lot of players who requested psychologists like Paul George, who said he was dealing with depression and anxiety during the beginning of the bubble. You know, when the world was calling him Pandemic P. In all seriousness, props to him for coming forward with that. The bubble isn't why the Clippers lost though, they simply choked and didn't have a floor general. Each team brought a sports psychologist to the bubble, so certain players were more inclined to playing better, to be more focused, while other players struggled. The bubble was different, but to say it was easy is just wrong. Random role players were going off because they felt less pressured. There were no home or road games, others were dealing with other issues. Yet it was a focused environment with fewer injuries, so teams were running smoothly. It's a lot of conflicting information. The bubble should still have an asterisk, but not because it was easy, not because it was a Mickey Mouse ring, and not because of missed games, since there weren't many, but because it was a different type. Still have an asterisk, but not because it was easy, not because it was a Mickey Mouse ring, and not because of
This man Ben Simmons was #1 of steals in the league at one point. And where he at now? I don't know.
games, since
James Harden had more steals than Drew Holiday, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi. No wait, no I'm tripping. Okay, Kawhi. Damn. So this was like what? Yeah, 2020, right? Really? James Harden had. Oh, I'm tripping. I'm a dumbass. They had the same, but like, yeah, for a guy that does do defense, his defense is improving now.
there weren't many, but because it was a different type of difficult challenge compared to all the other NBA championships. Just like how the Celtics dominated the NBA back when there were only 8 teams, building up to 14. Yeah, Bill Russell has 11, but we don't count those rings the same. The Celtics championships were legitimately without less than half the teams the NBA have right now. So the bubble and that era...
Okay, if I be honest, I didn't know that. They had like 8 teams. That's how Bill got 11 rings. I didn't know that.
Completely different, just a similar concept. NBA players get paid the big bucks to be professionals and adapt to the environment. Just like with rule changes, players still need to be effective year in, year out. They don't get an excuse, like Harden this year, and most NBA fans just roasted him.
Takes no skill at all.
The bubble had its pros and cons statistically and with context, so let's stop not counting.
I mean, now to think about it, I think the reason why roleplay was going off because like it was like no fans. You know, they probably have a fan be like, "Oh, TJ, you're trash." Other NBA players that we barely heard of was going off in the bubble. So maybe that's why some of them was like, "Oh, it was better with no fans." That's why they like the bubble.
But let's keep the asterisk. And to those that are gonna say, "I'm trying to help LeBron," you haven't been on my channel long enough. LeBron gets the good and the bad for me. My favorite player of all time is Kobe. I just know he wouldn't have made an excuse. And I just want a deeper dive in the NBA bubble. But what do you think? Was the bubble easier or harder? And is it a legit ring? The all-day notification shout goes to Lila. Thanks for the all-day support. And if you're still here, you're a real one, so comment bubble.
I mean, if I'll be honest, a ring's a ring. So even if y'all say it's a fake ring, it's still a ring. It's just that it was in a whole different environment because of COVID. I mean, to be honest, the government was kind enough to let us watch some sports like football, but it was like no fans until like 2021. Yeah, I'll probably say it was easier because also I did like to see like players that we barely heard of, doing something like dropping 30, 40 points in the games it was playing. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Hope you guys liked it. If you like my commentary, keep it in the comments below. Keep it real, because I know my commentary sucks. I stutter too much. But yeah, man, CD out.